North-East All Progressives Congress Party holds meeting to strengthen existence in the zone. President Buhari receives more commendation for the construction of the new second Niger bridge. And update on Nigeria's status on COVID-19. This and more on Panorama. I'm Ian Ray John. Thanks for joining us. The presidency has acknowledged concerns by several members of the public regarding a recent incident among occupants of the State House, which led to the arrest of some staff by the police. A statement by the Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media Publicity, Garba Shehu, assures Nigerians that the President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, Muhammadu Buhari, is not and was not at any time in any form of danger arising from either deadly infections or reported incident by security personnel, which is currently under investigation. This particular incident happened outside the main residence of the President, and the relevant authorities have been mandated to investigate the matter for the law to take its course. Governor Muhammadu Inuwa Yahaya has played host to the Senate President, APC governors and other politicians of the North-East extraction. Emmanuel Akila reports that the North-East meeting was to ensure fair representation of the zone with regards to the vacancies at the APC National Secretariat.
The North-East Caucus meeting was delayed by the COVID-19 pandemic and the attendant restrictions on gatherings and travel. With gradual easing of the restrictions by the federal government, the APC North-East Zonal meeting is conducted with strict compliance with the COVID-19 prevention protocol. Senate President Ahmed Lawan called for unity among politicians in the region, while the three APC governors in the North-East, Inuwa Yahaya of Gombe, Memala Buni of Yobe, and Babagana Umar Zulum of Borno, all agree that the zone's problems can best be solved by the people of the zone, beginning with exemplary leadership.
It's an emergency meeting which basically has a one-item agenda, which is endorsement of the nomination of the National Secretary and that of Zonal Youth Leader and that of Deputy National Auditor. And accordingly, Waziri Bulama's nomination was endorsed and hereby forwarded to the National Executive Committee for ratification. So also the nomination of Abubakar Musa for Zonal Youth Leader and that of Shetima for National Deputy Auditor. Also, we talked about some issues.
The meeting, which lasted for 40 minutes, was also attended via video conferencing by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Boss Gida Mustafa, and Senator Mahmoud Njuma Goji. In Gombe, Emmanuel Akila, NTA News.
The presidency has reacted to a statement alleging that insecurity in some northern states indicates that President Muhammadu Buhari and the governors of those states have lost control over the protection of the people. Responding to the statement signed by Professor Abdullahi under the banner of Northern Elders Forum, NEF, the presidency decried the misrepresentation of true elders of northern Nigeria, saying NEF is just Ango Abdullahi and Ango Abdullahi is NEF, lacking credible membership. The statement signed by Special Advisor to the President on Media Publicity, Femi Adesina, adds that NEF showed its antipathy against President Buhari before the 2019 presidential election, and that President Buhari nonetheless is steadfastly focused on retooling Nigeria for progress. As democracy deepens in Nigeria, media practitioners as frontliners in the entrenchment of the values of this system of government seek implementation of enabling laws to guarantee press freedom in Nigeria. Achibong Basa reports that this is imperative as the history of Nigeria's democracy cannot be told without the role of the press.
The importance of freedom of the press cannot be overemphasized, considering its vital role in informing citizens about government and non-governmental activities at all levels. That the Nigerian media, which is also said to be the fourth estate of the realm, has been a dogged fighter in the restoration and nurture of the country's democracy is stating the obvious. 21 years of Nigeria's democracy, the press has continued to flourish as the watchdog of the society, although practitioners are desirous of a more conducive environment to thrive.
If government can pick out the insurance of journalists as a priority, for example, and they make it mandatory, whether public or private establishments, that as a practicing journalist or a media practitioner, get your staff insured.
Every now and then we see new introductions of bills to the National Assembly and what have you to attempt to control the press. We will not have a true democracy if you control the press.
In Calabar, Achibombasi, NTA News.
In other news, the national chairman of Zenith Labour Party, Dan Nwayawu, said the 5 years of the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari have left an indelible mark in the fight against corruption in Nigeria. He stated this while addressing journalists at the party's national secretariat in Abuja. He said the Zenith Labour Party, like other well-meaning Nigerians, note the cash and property recovered worth hundreds of billions of naira and the zeal of the administration to do more as verifiable achievements that should be sustained.
That we are doing this fight because of our country. Most of the people that held positions in the past in various states liquidated their states. And we, the citizens from those different states, could see where these funds were put in. Some of them are facing trial. Some of them will have their trial commence very soon. But they don't want it to happen. Corruption is now fighting back again. This is a man, if you listen to the president in his Democracy Day speech, he acknowledged that over 800 billion naira has been recovered by Ibrahim Magu, in cash. Properties worth billions of naira. You know, jewelries and all those things have been recovered. They are available. The funds, according to Mr. President, have been plowed back into the revenue of the nation for common good. So this is a ban that they still want to be removed because a lot of them are now on the line to be charged to court any moment from now.
Stakeholders in the transportation and commercial sector in Anambra State have commended the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari on the progress made so far on the construction of a second bridge across the Niger. They described it as a national development that will benefit not just the southeast geopolitical zone, but the entire Nigeria. Ekene Ndulwe has details.
For over 20 years, the clamor for a second bridge across the River Niger was a subject of politicking spanning several administrations. Hence, the visible works on the second Niger bridge by the present administration is seen as a demonstration of sincerity of purpose. Currently, piling work has been completed on the bridge and approach roads are being constructed, while 48% of work on the bridge has been completed. The economic impact of this bridge to the nation is described by stakeholders as huge, as many businesses that lose man-hours on the pre-existing bridge will have some respite when the second bridge is completed.
This is when business activities are quite high. Individuals could stay there 5, 6, 7 hours, a single carriageway. But this new one is a 6-lane laneway, and so ideally it would reduce the traffic tremendously.
It means something of the economy, means movement of goods and services across border. It means reducing the time you spend. It means removing all the gridlocks. It means improvement of movement and goods, I said, across all borders in the country. Is that what it means to Nigerians?
Commendations also went to President Buhari for keeping to his promise to complete the project before the expiration of his second tenure.
And they are working very fast. If you go there, you'll be amazed. If you go and see what they have done, I have the belief that they will complete it before the second term. The
second Niger bridge, which is 1.6 kilometers long and furnished with other ancillary infrastructure, including a 10.3-kilometer highway, Owerri interchange, and a toll station, is expected to be completed in the year 2022. In Onitsha, Ekene Ndulwe, NTA News.
Time for a short break. Do stay.
For now, the best and most efficient way to avoid getting infected is through regular hygienic and sanitary practices, as well as social distancing. As individuals, we remain the greatest weapon to fight this pandemic. By washing our hands regularly with clean water and soap, disinfecting frequently used surfaces and areas, coughing into a tissue or elbow, and strictly adhering to infection prevention control measures in health facilities, we can contain this virus.
Coronavirus is real. Steps to avoid this pandemic. Wash your hands regularly or sanitize your hands. Keep social and physical distancing. Avoid crowded places. Stay at home unless absolutely necessary. Don't touch your eyes, nose, or mouth if your hands are not clean. Avoid the spread of coronavirus. Coronavirus is real.
The National Center for Disease Control has reported 403 new COVID-19 cases in Nigeria, bringing the total of confirmed cases to 16,085. The breakdown of the new cases show that Gombe has 73, Lagos 68, Kano 46, Edo 36, FCT 35, Nasarawa 31, Kaduna 17, Oyo 16, Abia 15, Delta and Borno 13 each, Niger and Rivers 7 each, Enugu and Ogun 6 each, Kebbi 3, Ondo, Anambra and Imo 1 case each. The NCDC says of the 16,085 cases, 5,220 have been discharged, while 420 died. Akwa Ibom State government has approved the establishment of gender-based violence referral center to the 3 senatorial districts of the state. This was part of the resolutions during the State Executive Council meeting. Susan Asukwo reports.
The center will have medical doctors who will examine and treat victims of rape cases, social welfare officers to take care of the psychological needs of victims, as well as legal practitioners who will be in charge of the legal processes required to ensure that culprits face the wrath of the law.
These centers will be as the first point they will be going, first of all, to get treatments. Because when any child is raped, what is paramount to us is the welfare of the child first.
Speaking further on other resolutions by EXCO, Commissioner for Information and Strategy Charles Sudo hinted that implementation of the 20% pay slash of political appointees proposed by the state government will take effect from the month of June.
This is part of measures to combat the effect of COVID-19 on the state finances. Albeit, it's important to note that this is a temporary measure.
In Uyo, Susan Asukwo, NTA News.
Now, for months, the globe has been battling with the spread of coronavirus that has claimed many lives across the board, in spite of efforts of all to contain its spread. It is therefore surprising to learn now that some medical personnel want to down tools at this critical time. Joining me to speak more on resident doctors' strike action is the Assistant Secretary General of the Nigerian Association of Resident Doctors, Dr. Bright Chukwunta. Many thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, so what could be responsible for the strike action at this time when your services are most needed?
I wish to make clarifications before I start. The strike has already commenced. It commenced by 12:01 a.m. this morning. Well, answering your question, this strike is born out of many years, months, and currently weeks of the federal government of Nigeria and state governments not living up to expectations. You'll recall that we've been having pandemic for quite some months now in Nigeria, and that our members have been infected. We've lost some of our members. To put the statistics clear, more than 800 of our members have been exposed to coronavirus. More than 200 have been diagnosed positive of coronavirus, and we've lost 10 of our members. And for this reason, we've repeatedly made calls to the federal government and state governors to provide the basic things that we need to protect ourselves and other health workers in the delivery of healthcare services in the country. But what we've seen is that both state and federal governments have not been able to provide these personal protective equipment. And by doing so, exposing our members to unnecessary risk, avoidable risk and dangers. It's everywhere that they've provided this, but I wish to tell Nigerians that those things are only provided at the isolation and treatment centers for COVID. But in institutions, tertiary institutions, these things are not available. And we know that currently we're having both hospital and community transmission of this virus. And that people, there is nothing to say that anybody coming to the hospital has this or doesn't have this. And even people that will end up being moved to the isolation and treatment center, most of them become a suspected case on our everyday hospitals before confirming the diagnosis, before they can be moved to the isolation center.
Okay, you've made a point. The lack of PPE is the main reason why you're going on strike. First, I'd like to ask, is it ethical to be going on strike at this point? And then looking at other countries that are managing this pandemic with higher figures, we've not heard cases of the doctors wanting to go on strike. For example, the US.
Well, it's very ethical to answer your question because you can't be aware that if you work without PPEs, you're going to get infected and you may die. So you have to protect yourself first. But PPE is not just the reason. It's one of the reasons why we're going on strike. There are other reasons. Monuments. You are aware that about a week ago, the Minister of Labour came on air and said they were going to pay the inducement and the hazard allowance to our members. As I talked to you, in fact, he said they were going to pay it last week. As I talked to you, that has not been done. We have arrears of skipping. We have our members in the state institutions who cannot get paid salary, ordinary salary. Like, for instance, we have our members in AFSUTs.
Okay, Dr. Chukwunta, it looks like there are a lot of issues, that, you would like, the government to pay attention to. So what would you say now is a solution or the way out, or, for the doctors and the concerned authorities to reach an agreement so that lives can actually be saved?
Well, we are open to negotiations. We are not interested in strike. We're only using strike to drive home our points. That is after making much attempts to get the government on the negotiation table. We should also state that this strike excludes our members that work in isolation centers and treatment centers. So as a mark of goodwill to Nigerians and the leadership of the National Assembly that are currently making an intervention to get the executive arm of the government to sort out some of those things. So I must tell you, if the government is able to respond to our demands,
you'll go back to work.
We'll go back to work immediately.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Chukwunta. All right, in other news now, the President, Christian Association of Nigeria, CAN, has His Eminence, Reverend Samson Ayokunle, has congratulated the new President of the Court of Appeal, Justice Monica Dogbam Mesam. A statement brought his Special Assistant on Media Communications, Pastor Adebayo Oladeji. The CAN president commended President Muhammadu Buhari for resisting the pressure reportedly mounted on him by some forces not to send her name to the Senate for confirmation. Reverend Ayokunle noted that the confirmation of Justice Dogbam Mesam as the president of the Court of Appeal shows that President Buhari is being sensitive to the aspiration and yearnings of the populace to have a nation where everyone has a sense of belonging, irrespective of his religious, political, and ethnic affiliations. In a bid to diversify Nigeria's oil-dominated economy, President Muhammadu Buhari introduced the Agricultural Transformation Agenda, which has been significant, especially with recent trends in the global economy. Keen into this policy, Cross River State embarked on several agro-industrial projects and the flag of, as well as subsequent transplant of 10 million improved cocoa seedlings for rehabilitation in government-owned cocoa estates. A test. Paul Ebol reports.
Government-owned cocoa estates in Cross River State were established several years ago, and most of the trees are aged with lesser production of fruits. This trend, no doubt, is the major reason behind transplanting the new improved seedlings, as the yields will also serve for exports and feed the state's ultra-modern cocoa processing factory at Akan with raw materials. The state government and the traditional rulers of Etung, where the cocoa nursery is located, are of the view that the initiative will not only reposition cocoa as one of the state's major export earners, but also reduce poverty and create jobs for many youths.
Our goal is to become a major exporter of cocoa, also to ensure that our people are empowered financially.
Our vision in Cross River State is to ensure that we hit 500,000 metric tons of cocoa. We are looking at becoming the world leading producer.
By the time we rehabilitate our estate, believe me, the Etung people will be the richest people in Cross River State.
A special feature of this event is the symbolic transplanting of the trees by government officials at the Abia Cocoa Estate.
The Cross River State has promised to sustain its investment to enthrone the state as a preferred world cocoa destination. From Abia Bendege, Etung local government area of Cross River State, I am Paul Abel, NTA News.
Let's now talk sports, and Amanzi Marcus will bring us details.
Following the choice of October 22 to November 4 as tentative date for the 20th National Sports Festival in Benin City, Edo State, some athletes in Uyo, the Akwa Ibom State capital, have intensified training ahead of the competition. Correspondent John Paul Alumina reports that stakeholders received news of the new date with hope.
You know, athletes have been training for quite some time. It's a good thing for us, and of course, we'll have like 3 months to prepare for the festival. So whatever form the athletes will have lost, by the grace of God, we'll see how we can restore it before then.
We are very happy, especially for me. I'm very glad because I know I'll be there once more again and display what I have been training for.
As countries around the world is locked down due to the coronavirus pandemic, World Athletics says it is working on a shortened season from August to October 2020. President of the athletics ruling body, Sebastian Coe, disclosed that a number of elite Diamond League meetings will also hold within the 90 days. The body issued a 22-page guideline based on scientific and medical knowledge of the virus responsible for COVID-19. Meanwhile, colleagues of the late technical director of the Nigeria Football Federation, Shuaibu Amadu, on June 11 gathered in Auchi, Edo State, to remember the late Super Eagles coach who died on June 11, 2016.
Amadu believed in development of human beings. That's why when he came into Edo State to say he wanted to establish a youth development program, all of us embraced it.
Wonderful man, easy to deal with, very strict, very positive-minded human being, and a tough guy as well.
They decried the coronavirus crisis that has disrupted normal life and promised to organize a national football competition in memory of the late Shuaibu Amadu during the 5th anniversary of his demise in 2021. The sports update, Manzi Marcus, NTA News.